this is Cathynnan's Herbal ABC, and I'm Cathynan. I'm called that because that's what my oldest grandson likes to call me, which is relevant because this series, this ABC that I'm going to be doing, is because I'm putting a book together for a little legacy to my grandchildren. They've all learned a little bit, whether they wanted to or not, about herbs with their nanny, and actually have shown quite a lot of interest, and it's lovely to be able to pass on my little bit of knowledge. And that's what this is also about, is that I have got quite a lot of knowledge put together now, and I don't want it to go nowhere. So yeah, I'm making the book for my grandkids and sticking this out on YouTube, and we'll see what happens to it. Yeah, it's about sharing my love of herbs and my faith in some of the remedies that we'll be talking about. And it's a two-way thing. So please feel free to comment constructive criticism where you think that maybe I've got something wrong, want to talk about it, it's fine. And also any ideas extending our communal knowledge about each herb. And I've chosen this format, quite a simple format, so that I stay on track, because I will veer off all over the place. Quite passionate about my subject, and I can always think of something to say. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to not be, if anything, fast-paced about this whatsoever. The technology, although I'm getting some excellent help elsewhere, my knowledge, I hope, will improve during the series. Yeah, so please don't expect anything too flashy. It's not going to happen. Okay, so the format that I've taken is this. So first, every time I will tell you the herb and its name, and also any Latin names or traditional folk names, whatever that I know of. Especially as some of the folk names tell us 10 times more than the Latin names do. Well, that's not true. I mean, if your knowledge of Latin is there, of course Latin names tell you something, but the folk names tell you something that's really inherent in our history, and it's a lovely way to learn about the herbs, is to learn why they're called what they're called. Then the first thing I'll go into every time after the name is the cautions. So I will say, to start with, if you have anything serious wrong with you, of course consult a professional practitioner. My main philosophy about all these herbs is that if you keep gently looking after yourself every day, then the likelihood of you falling for some of the more serious diseases is lessened. And also, if you do fall, then your recovery time is, I think, quickened, made faster. And the whole process becomes a little bit easier. I've seen my friends drop, and my system is such that I can kind of get anything and it doesn't hit me too hard. I mean, if, you know, I could get berry and die tomorrow, and that would make me sound like a hypocrite. But on a general level, my health is pretty good, especially for my age, and I'm on no pharmaceuticals whatsoever. Okay, I will own up to the odd ibuprofen, and I've had a very rough winter, which I'll tell you more about because it is again relevant because of the herbs that I use to look after myself. And that's what this is all about as well, really, is we can look after ourselves. We don't need to go running to the doctor for everything. We were taught that we should. But now, as most of you realise, these things are letting us down. And also the pharmaceuticals that are used, quite often the side effects are far worse than the original problem. So I've got a million reasons why I respect herbs so much. I'm going to stop now because if I do it too long, the technology doesn't like it. So I'm going to come back in a second. So this is the second part of my general introduction to Cathynan's Herbal ABC. After the cautions, we'll go through the cautions quickly first. So I will go through these cautions at the beginning of every herb that I talk about, primarily just to get it over with, so that we can get on to all the good stuff. And also, if you are in the category of people that this herb wouldn't be particularly good for, you can switch off if you want to. So I'll tell you straight up. I mean, the most sensitive people usually with the herbs are pregnant women, and I will always tell you if it's slightly dangerous for a pregnant women to be using each herb. And apart from that, most of the herbs I use are not dangerous. They will be dangerous to some people just about the same way as almost anything else is. If that's the case, I will tell you. Okay, so then I'll go on to the actions of each herb and their medicinal uses and what they can help prevent and sometimes cure. Quite simple, but it'll take some explaining for each herb. Then we'll go on to preparation, and the preparation that I'm using mainly is the preparations that I use, and because my lifestyle is quite hectic usually, these preparations take no time at all, and they take no great medicinal knowledge. Quite often teas, sometimes an ointment, sometimes a tincture, nothing very complicated. This will change. I've only had my most recent gardens a few years. And as, of course, they grow more mature, I have more herbs to harvest. And so my ambitions on how to use those herbs are going to change. Basically pretty basic preparation. And now the recognition of each herb. So the herbs I'm using are all either easy to grow, easy to find, or very cheap to buy in this country. This was my premise when I first started collating 5 years ago. Started to collate the knowledge I got from the course that I did, which covered everything, Ayurvedic and Chinese, which is all wonderful. And I can certainly chat about that sort of thing. But I wanted this first alphabet anyway to be totally about stuff that you can do yourself and that involve very little money. Mainly because I learned about herbs because I was a single mum of 3 kids, because the doctors was a long way away, because I had become disillusioned completely with the pharmaceutical industry, especially in the face of what the treatments they were trying to give me for my children. And that was when I genned up and started looking at alternatives, as did many, 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 many of us. I certainly wasn't alone. But I've kept at it. And being quite extreme in nature, I wanted to delve into exactly how we could look after ourselves. And I'm kind of spent the rest of my life doing that, really, more or less. So after recognition, which will help you with planting, but also, of course, foraging, we'll go on to how to grow these herbs, most of which I will have some experience of. I've been a gardener quite a lot in my life. And again, most of them are going to be pretty easy to grow because they're largely native plants, because that's my premise in doing this. After that, I go to permaculture. This is a subject that's very dear to my heart, and we will be going into why every plant that we look at is not only good for us, but it's also good for the soil and the environment in general, and the wildlife and the bees and everything. Permaculture is very important to me, and it's going to be an interesting little section of this series, I think. Then I'm going to go into the phytochemicals, and I will stutter and stammer because it's all the science, and I do know this stuff, but it nevertheless trips me up quite a lot. Just so that you know which constituents of each herb is the active constituents that are going to cause an effect. After that, I go to the magic, the folklore of the plants. We have to respect the fact that these plants have been around for a long, long while, and people all over the world have got very similar, actually, stories about each herb. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll go in, at the very end, we'll go in and do a little tarot spread for the influence which each herb. Now, I started learning my herbalism from culpepper, and I would thoroughly recommend anybody who wants to study herbs to look at him. And he was very knowledgeable about the astrology of the herbs, which planet ruled which herb and that sort of thing. So I'll be going into that. And as I say, the tarot. So that's it. So that's what my Cathynan's Herbal ABC's basically going to look like. Good morning. So today on Cathynan's Herbal ABC, we're looking at W is for walnut, and the alternative names for walnut. So the Latin is Juglans regia, Juglansregia. And it's also known as Persian walnut, common walnut, English walnut, Carpathian walnut, and Madeira nut. The things to be aware of, not much really. Some people may have an allergic reaction to nuts in general, of course, or walnuts in particular. Excess may cause gastrointestinal problems such as bloating, stomach cramps, due to the fibre and fat content, and it's quite easy to overdo it with walnuts, so just be aware of that. You know, if you do feel like you're bloating, you've got stomach cramps, and stop eating your walnuts for a little while. Weight gain is also possible, again because of the fat content. Walnuts can also be inflammatory in excess because of phytic acid, which reacts to the skin. So any of those reactions, then of course stop, and of course if you're allergic to nuts, don't go there. So to prepare, walnut yields an oil which is quite expensive. It is, however, great for salads, baking and grilling. At home it's quite simple to boil cracked walnuts until the liquid is halved, and then leave it to cool, and you use that in place of this expensive walnut oil. But you can also make the leaves and the bark into a tea by using 1 to 2 teaspoons or 3 times that amount if you're using fresh. So 1 to 2 teaspoons of the dried herb to 1 cup of boiling water, and letting it infuse for 15 minutes. And the dose would be half to 1 cup 3 times a day. And as I've said about the other herbs, what I would be tempted to do is make a whole pot full, and then just take a half to 1 cup of that pot full 3 times a day to save you making the tea itself. This infusion can also be used as a wash. And to make a tincture, you can use both the leaves and the grated nut. And you would use 1 part of the leaves and nut to 5 parts of 40% alcohol. And as I've also said in my other videos, I would tend to use vodka. And if you can't get hold of 40% alcohol, then I would use the 37.5, which is available in any supermarket, and it seems to work just fine. You macerate this for 8 days, so it's not long that you have to macerate it for. Then you can decant it, and you can take 1 to 3 teaspoons full in water 3 times a day, or you can use walnut as a compress. You would use 30 grams of fresh or dried leaves to 500 mils of water. Simmer it gently for a minute, let it cool, and then soak a suitable material, for example a bandage or some lint, in the liquid you've got, and then apply that to wherever you need it. Okay, so we'll come back with the actions. So the actions of walnut. Walnuts can lower cholesterol up to 20%, and thus decreases your risk of coronary problems. The same, I keep saying juglone, but that's because I've studied Spanish and I want to say juglone, so I do apologise if I keep saying it, but I think it's juglone, Juglone. So it's dangerous to some of its neighbouring plants, as we'll see later when we talk about growing and the permaculture and everything. But this same chemical that's so dangerous to some neighbouring plants is equally fatal to mites. So you can apply tea or a tincture to an affected area and get rid of the mites. A walnut rinse or oil will also improve your hair colour over time. Walnut is an alterative, and so can be used as a holistic and general pick-me-up or tonic. That's just what alterative means. So if you see that written down, it just means that it's going to holistically help your whole body and your whole mental capacity and everything. It helps everything. So it's a really nice tonic or pick-me-up. Walnut is astringent, so that helps your skin cells and tissues tighten and contract, which helps shrink pores, prevents acne, reduces inflammation, and removes debris from the skin. So it's a cleanser, much like the astringent that you'll buy from a chemist as part of your makeup routine. It's a laxative, and it's a mild hypoglycemic, which helps prevent low blood sugar. So if your blood sugar's low, reach for your walnuts. It's detergent, which is a natural cleaner. It's anti-inflammatory and anti-scrofula. And scrofula is caused by the same bacteria that causes tuberculosis, but it's outside of the lungs in the form of inflamed lymph nodes in your neck. It's most common in women aged between 30 and 40. Walnut can protect against irritable bowels and hardening of the arteries. And walnut tea is a valuable drink or wash for skin disorders. I would make a big pot of tea for a few days running. Take 1.5 to 3 cups for drinking throughout the day and use the rest as a wash. This approach will soon stop. Would also be helpful for shingles and for inflamed eyelids. Okay, we'll come back with the recognise, forage and grow. Yeah, so to recognise, forage and grow walnut, most of us are going to be foraging because although it is possible to grow walnut in pots and to keep them quite small, most of us don't have that kind of room in our garden. Okay, so it's important to be able to recognise it in that case. So walnut has pinnate leaves with leaflets in 2 rows either side of a midrib, so a bit like a feather. Each leaf blade has 2 to 9 pairs of leaflets, plus 1 at the tip. The leaves turn a beautiful yellow or brown in autumn. Juglans regia, which is the walnut we're dealing with, the English or common walnut, has quite short and round leaves, and the bark of the English walnut has a smooth olive-coloured bark when it's young, which turns grey and becomes deeply fissured with age. It often has diamond patterns, and the ridges run vertically up and down the trunk. Under the bark is a dark brown wood, which is actually beautiful. My dad drove a car. I can't remember what it was called, but it had a walnut wood dashboard. Absolutely beautiful. You wouldn't see it often these days. There are deep vertical crevices and a dark colour, and the nuts, aka drupes, appear as small green balls. They look a bit like conkers, without the spikes, so a little bit similar to conkers. Inside the green outer layer are the nuts in their shells, which have a bumpy texture. The nuts have a papery outer layer. The tree is big and statuesque, quite beautiful, with a round canopy, and grow to 65 feet or 20 metres, even 50 metres if left untouched. To find walnuts in the wild, look on waste ground, in hedgerows and in untouched woodland. Walnuts are on trees from mid-September, but foraging is more bountiful in October, so best to wait till October, just before they fall. But many are also good off the ground if they haven't been there for too long. They're usually 1 to 2 inches wide, and as I said, the green globes look a bit like conkers. Take this outer casing off, and there is the recognisable bumpy beige shell. You can then leave the walnuts to dry for a couple of days. The walnuts look like 2 halves of a brain. They can be toasted or left to dry till they are dark brown and crunchy. So if you are going to grow, the walnut is a deciduous tree which flowers in early spring. It can be planted in late autumn or winter. It does best in full sun, and certainly not in or near frost pockets or on an exposed site. I'm just going to leap forward to a bit of permaculture here. One of the things that we spoke about with permaculture in some of my other videos is that when you inherit a piece of land, it's a really good idea to just observe it for a year, and then you'll know where these frost pockets are. You'll know not to plant your precious new walnut tree in or near a frost pocket, because you've seen over the year, if you've watched your garden over a year to observe what happens in all different parts of it, then you'll know where the frost pockets are, and you can avoid this kind of mistake. So it's fully hardy, but you shouldn't expect nuts after a spring frost. It may be worth protecting them. I've just made sure my trees in pots are protected, mainly with mulch and a bit of bubble wrap, by keeping them off the ground and not letting them sit in water. Walnuts like moisture retentive alkaline loam, so not clay or sand and not too acid. Adding plenty of organic matter will help. Shelter them from strong winds, and the juglone in the walnut tree inhibits a lot of other plants and is fatal to some. So it will need space. And some plants are fine with the juglone, and we'll look at them more in the permaculture section, which we're going to come to next. Okay, so this is the permaculture section about walnut, and as we've just said, one thing that stands out about the walnut is its ability to kill. This is called allelopathy, allelopathy, and walnut is the main culprit, but there are other plants. I think the brassicas have got this ability, so you shouldn't plant brassicas, or you shouldn't leave the roots in the ground of brassicas, because they will kill the next lot of brassicas. But they're allelopathic only in amongst themselves. Walnuts are allelopathic to a lot of other plants. The good news is that not all plants are susceptible. Nothing will really grow under the canopy, but compost, chopped leaves and grass clippings covered with a layer of wood chip will stop weeds and add nutrients to the soil. The wood chip will also encourage a healthy fungal network. Under a walnut tree is also a great place for a mushroom log, such as for shiitake or oysters. The latter, the oysters, I think are a little bit easier for beginners if you haven't done it before. I've not yet done this. I've grown mushrooms from kits indoors, but I haven't taken the big step of making a mushroom log yet. But yeah, another one for me to have a go at. But even lion's mane, which is one of my favourites at my age, lion's mane is wonderful for cognitive. I can really tell. I feel 10 times brighter and more intelligent if I've taken my lion's mane. And I'm quite keen to give it a go growing it. But I think I'm going to start with oyster mushrooms because they're good for you. But yeah, even lion's mane can be grown like this. So when we get to the drip line or the edge of the walnut's wide canopy, we can start to think of the gills that will both tolerate and be beneficial for the walnut. We've talked about guilds before. I've shown you apple tree guilds and guilds for other usually trees, but famously the three sisters with the squash, the beans, and the squash, the beans and the maize. So the beans can climb up the maize, the squash shelters the seedlings of the beans when they are little, so that they get enough moisture and not too much sun, and the beans add nitrogen, so they all help in this symbiotic relationship. And you can do this with your walnut tree. So a suitable guild for a walnut tree would be as follows. So comfrey is tolerant of juglone, as well as being a dynamic accumulator, bringing nutrients, especially nitrogen, up through its long root to share with other plants. It's also a great source of biomass. Biomass just means that loads of leaves, like comfrey has really fleshy, abundant leaves. And this provides mulch and compost because of its large and fast composting leaves. Comfrey is also useful as a weed suppressor because, again, of its foliage, and it's also, of course, a medicinal herb, really valuable, and animal feed for chickens, goats and cows. Comfrey also makes a brilliant fertiliser. I used to put the leaves in water to feed tomatoes and other plants, and found my dog drinking it. And my dog had been knocked over as a puppy, and it was long before I really studied herbs. In fact, it was one of the things that made me start studying herbs. Because he made himself better. He knew, because it stunk. I thought, why on earth does he want to do that? And then, of course, I studied it, and it's knit bone. Comfrey is knit bone. So he was actually healing himself, and especially in winter, he loved it, and it would stop him getting the limp that otherwise he would have had, probably all his life. Yeah, so another plant is mint or lemon balm. They're tolerant of juglone, they're tolerant of everything. You know what mint's like once you've got it in a garden. If you have a garden, you know what mint's like. And lemon balm's pretty much the same. And they're great. I mean, it's great to have mint and lemon balm, and I use them both a lot. But the trouble with them both is they spread really easily, and they lose their quality as they spread, so they turn into something that's useless, really. So you do have to keep on top of them, but they are worth it, and especially if you've got a walnut tree growing, they're going to be one of the few things that will grow near it. So and they are, of course, useful for culinary, for the taste, and for medicinal purposes. So they're very precious. I wouldn't ever have a garden without mint and lemon balm. But on the other hand, you do have to keep an eye. Gooseberry and mulberry are also both tolerant of juglone and provide nutrition. So walnut trees are monoecious, which means they have both male and female on the same tree. So it is possible that only one tree is needed. However, most commercial walnut orchards also have a pollinator as well to increase the yield. Although comfrey is a great plant to grow with walnut, this should be limited to only 1 or 2 plants, as too much nitrogen can cause walnut blight. So you only want 1 or 2 plants of comfrey. Obviously, most of us don't have the room for a full-grown walnut, but you can get miniature cultivars, which from a medical perspective is great. Even if you don't get a nut, the leaves and the barks are precious. But of course, it'd be lovely to grow your own nuts. But I'm not so sure from a permaculture point of view whether the cultivars are a good idea. I don't really know enough about that. So if somebody does know, please add something in the comments here on YouTube, because it would be good for everybody. Another alternative would be to grow it in a pot. And as I've said before, I met a lovely guy, my very own Newcastle Mr. Miyagi, who told me exactly how easy it is to do a bit of a bonsai on your plants. And I said, how do you do it? And I was expecting this long, involved explanation. He said, well, basically, you put them in a pot, and you look after them, and then in 10 years, you take them out of the pot and shave the roots, or put them in a bigger pot, or both. And that's it, apart from taking branches that go over each other, you take out and yeah, basically leave your main trunk as it is. So yeah, nice little education in bonsai growing. Okay, going to come back with the phytochemicals of walnut. Yeah, so this is the phytochemicals. Walnuts yield an expensive oil, as we said, but it's really rich in omega-3 fatty acids. It also contains silicon, volatile oil, naphthoquinones, flavonoids, tannins, and juglone. Omega-3 fatty acids are polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFAs, P-U-F-A-S for short. They're a group of 3 types of fat which are important for our health. These are known as ALA, DHA and EPA, which I can't remember the meanings of, but we don't particularly need them. They benefit brain and heart health, reduce inflammation, and protect against depression and anxiety. They improve brain development in babies in the womb and benefit vision and eye health. They can benefit children by reducing ADHD and improving brain growth. They are anti-inflammatory and can reduce autoimmune disease. They help to reduce harmful triglycerides, as well as in walnuts. Omega-3 can be found in flax seeds, chia seeds, tofu, navy beans, Brussels sprouts and avocados. Volatile oils, as we've seen in plenty of the other plants that we've looked at, are essential oils known for fragrance and therapeutic properties, so they're used in aromatherapy. They all come from plants, and their properties depend on those plants. They protect plants by keeping herbivores from wanting to eat them, and by deterring pathogens, so that's bacteria and other things that are going to do harm to your plants. They also attract pollinators. Walnut oils can improve your skin, decrease inflammation, help lower blood pressure, improve blood sugar control, help protect against cholesterol and cancer. So walnut oil is not an essential oil made by distillation, but an easily ingested culinary oil, which nevertheless contains some of these volatile oils. Okay, so also known as vitamin K, naphthoquinones are a class of organic compounds related to naphthalene. They're aromatic and have many health benefits. They're cardioprotective, neuroprotective, so they look after your nervous system. They also reduce the risk of neurodegenerative diseases. They are anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and anti-tumour. Naphthoquinones play an important role in blood clotting and bone health. They're found in spinach and kale, fermented foods generally, and especially in a food called natto, which is a fermented soybean. Basil, thyme and parsley are all rich in vitamin K, and soybean oil is also a good source. Flavonoids create the vivid colour of many plants, including fruits and vegetables, especially berries, red cabbage, onions, kale, etc. They help regulate cell activity and are antioxidant, fighting off free radicals. They mitigate cardiovascular diseases. They reduce blood pressure. They guard against diabetes, cancer, chronic pain, inflammation, viral infections, cognitive disease, etc. They're present in... tannins are... I've written this terribly. Tannins are yellow-brown bitter substances found in apples, herbs, teas, green teas and black teas and coffee, cocoa bean products. I drink a lot of cacao. I drink cacao every night now. It's my favourite part of the day. So tannins are in that too. Red wine, white wine, grapes and dark chocolate. They are antioxidant, anti-inflammatory and digestive and benefit cardiovascular health. I said I'd written this terribly. I really have written this terribly. Okay. So silicon occurs naturally in foods, especially vegetables such as green beans and root vegetables, also in whole grains, bananas, brown rice, etc. Silicon helps skin elasticity, bone health, cognitive health, connective tissues, collagen, digestion, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular issues, hormone balance and immunity. And juglone, this juglone that we've been talking about quite a lot, can deter and even kill other plants. It's antioxidant, anti-aging, protects against heart disease and antibacterial. Okay, so that's the phytochemicals, and we're going to come back with the plant magic. So the plant magic of walnut. Like most trees, walnut is strong magic. The nutshell is masculine energy, protective, strong, impenetrable, outward looking, outward facing. The nut itself embodies feminine energy. When we're talking about masculine and feminine, we're not talking about people. We're talking about a certain kind of energy. And the feminine energy is vulnerable, inward looking, and ideally protected by this lovely masculine hard nut outside. The nuts symbolise protection from negative energies, purification and cleansing from toxic energy and cognitive enhancement. This last quality was known way before the science caught up. No one knew about the flavonoids that improve cognition, but they knew that the nut looked like a protective skull encasing a vulnerable but precious brain. Walnut's Latin name is Juglans regia, which translates as Jupiter's nut. And Jupiter is the planet associated with wisdom. This ancient understanding is known as the doctrine of signatures and goes back to Dioscorides, who lived about 40 to 90 AD, more or less. We don't know his exact. We know that he was about 50 when he died, and we know that it was around those years that he lived. And the other one is Galen, or Galen, Galen, who lived from 129 AD to about 216 AD. The doctrine of signature signatures holds that herbs resembling parts of the body can be used to heal that part of the body. Liverwort is a good example, as the shape of the liver is symbolised by the shape of the leaves, which have spots on them that resemble the spots on a diseased liver. Jupiter also confers good fortune, and this also is an important part of the walnut's magic. The tree generally is thought of as a masculine energy and is ruled by the sun as well as Jupiter. So very fiery, masculine energy. Jupiter, so Zeus is the Greek counterpart of Jupiter, and of course was also associated with the walnut, as was Thor, the Norse god of thunder. The walnut is also a symbol of the elements of earth and fire. Traditionally, walnut wood was used to make wands, created with the intention to invoke abundance, insight, healing, focus, wealth, creativity and motivation. How lovely. The shells were used to make runes for divination, and an ink was made from the green husks which surround walnuts, particularly the black walnut, in order to write with intention to make a wish. Sorry. So the black walnut ink is used to write your intention or your wishes. So you crack open a walnut and eat it, and then you write your intention on a tiny piece of paper, which will then be placed in the walnut, which should be sealed shut. The intention should then be voiced aloud while burying the shell so that the intention grows. As always, and as I always say, take care that your intentions are not to wield a petty power over other people or to manifest greedy wishes, as these intentions will always backfire on you. But the intention to manifest harmony in your home or community or to alleviate suffering in others may indeed transpire as some clever ideas or energies to help these more altruistic intentions come to pass. So be careful what you wish for, as always. So we're going to come back with the tarot. Okay, so we talked about the walnut shells being used to make runes, which I think is a fabulous idea. I haven't done that yet. I'd quite like to. And I also haven't got a book about runes. I used to use runes years ago, and I've always been quite drawn to them, because although they're from Norse mythology, of course, Norse mythology had a huge influence on us as ancient English people. And I always felt they were very kind of grounding and English, had a real English, much more English feel about them than either the tarot or the I Ching, which I'm also really keen on and will be using in our last Cathynan's Herbal ABC, which is going to be Y is for yarrow, because there's not a Z. So I'm going to have a go just at picking a couple of runes to ask about walnut that I've made from pebbles from the beach. And as I say, I haven't got a book, so this might be quite a fumbly exercise, but I'll do my best. So I'm picking a rune because walnut is ruled by Thor, the god of thunder. I'm going to pick a Nordic rune to tell me something about the walnut. And I've got this one. The dot at the bottom is just to show me because some of them have two, you know, it's near enough the same sign, but the other way up. So I'm going to look up this one. And this is going to take a time. As I say, I've got no book at the moment, so I'm just doing it. We're only going to pick a couple, just so you can see how the runes are used. I'm going to find the right one. They are lovely, but it's so long ago. It must be at least 30 years ago, 40 years probably ago, that I had my own set of runes. I'm very tempted to get some more. Well, I've got these ones that it was one of the first thing I did when I moved near the coast, was to go down and get some pebbles. Oh, it might be that one. Okay, that's a possibility. So Nauthiz, Nauthiz, is one possibility. I'll see if I get something that's more. I'm remembering some. As I see them, I'm remembering. Ah, here it is. Here's the one. It's Algiz. And it's protection, defence, instinct, group effort, and guardianship. Algiz is a rune of protection and symbolises defence, instinct, group effort, and guardianship. This rune has the power to influence cosmic forces in a more positive direction. In so doing, preventing the forceful action of negative forces. Algiz is there to calm your mind, showing you that you are currently safe from harm. Just getting it so you can see it a little bit better. So ignore the dot on the bottom. That's just merely to show you the direction. However, this doesn't mean you should stop looking. Keep vigilant and be clear-headed. If you pull a reversed Algiz during a rune reading, this is usually a sign that you have been too laid back. However, don't allow yourself to become anxious, as this can muddy your vision. Take the time to slow down and practice self-care to boost your emotional, spiritual and physical clarity. So it's about clarity, which is really a very nice symbol for the walnut tree. You know, this doctrine of signatures that told us from ancient time that the walnut was good for your brain. So this one was Algiz, was a very nice rune to start with, and I'm going to try another one. See if we can be equally successful. Okay, I've just got to look again to find. As I say, I'm only going to do these two because it's quite a slow. Oh, this was quick. Okay, so it's Perthrow. So this second one is Perthrow. So that's Algiz, and this is Perthrow. Let's see what Perthrow means. Fate, chance, mystery, destiny, and secrets. Perthrow symbolises fate, chance, mystery, destiny, and secrets. It's a reminder that not all information has been revealed to you, and that there are many mysteries in the universe that we do not and may never understand. It's also a sign someone has been keeping a secret from you. Now is a very good time to be vigilant of the signs the universe may deliver to you. When reversed, which it wasn't, neither of these have been reversed, they've both been the right way up when they came out. When reversed, Perthrow is usually a sign that an unwanted secret is soon to be revealed, or signifies a shedding of burdening secrets that are affecting your well-being. However, it can also mean that the universe is telling you to take a break from divination, refresh your mind, and come back to the art later. So it's saying enough is enough. Oh, one thing I didn't mention. I wonder if that, just let me check. Yes, Perthro means the unknown. And Algiz, the first one, means elk. So it's to do with the elk, which I suppose... were there elks in England? Maybe. So yeah, so that was the 2 runes. Really happy with that. Little experiment, and that's encouraged me to study them anew, remember them again. Very nice. So I'm going to leave it there and come back, as I said, with our last one in this series of Cathynan's Herbal ABC, and it's going to be Y is for yarrow.